seen the expected full lifting of the lockdown and resumption of production and work. The outbreak is still spreading, and it seems more likely that the lockdown might be reintroduced. Authorities in Shanghai acknowledge that the outbreak has spread in 13 of the city's 16 administrative districts. Currently, people in 15 of Shanghai's 16 districts are being asked to take the nucleic acid test, and residents in 5 districts aren't allowed to leave their homes. Maoming Road and Nanchang Road, Huaihai Fang. This place is out of luck again.
This neighborhood will start closed management from June 11th, 3 p.m. It will be communicated separately when the closure will be over. Please cooperate. Comrades residents, in accordance with the requirements of the Shanghai Epidemic Prevention, the neighborhood will start from 3 p.m. on June 11th. Closed management. When the closure will be lifted, it will be communicated separately. Please cooperate. 开始封了，又开始封了。The lockdown started. The lockdown started again this morning in Meinong 3rd and 4th villages. The lockdown will last 14 days as a start. Everyone gets scared. Iron gates of the blockade have been brought in already.
Some Shanghai residents point out that Shanghai is, in reality, having a citywide nucleic acid test. On June 11th, 5 districts had a full nucleic acid test, and on June 12th, the remaining districts had the test. The days of nucleic acid testing were officially classified as a quiet period. Local officials dare not to demand nucleic acid testing for all of Shanghai at the same time, but rather to conduct it in separate phases. This avoids being seen by the outside world that Shanghai is likely to enter another actual closure of the city again.
For this year's citywide testing, logistic workers like us who help residents with deliveries are actually charged 5 yuan per person for the test. The government really wants money.
This was the morning of a subway station in Shanghai on June 13th. During the rush hour, people had to pass through the code check before they entered the subway station. There is no need to go to work now. The lines of people waiting to check their health codes have reached here. We can't enter the station, and it is raining. This is crazy. Once positive cases are found, the entire neighborhood will be blocked for at least 14 days, and how long will it really last is still unknown. On June 11th, Shanghai residents who had just received the news of the test requirements began to rush to supermarkets to stock up on food and other necessities again for fear of another unannounced lockdown like the one in March. As seen in the online videos, many supermarkets in Shanghai were crowded with people, especially in the vegetable and meat sections, and there were scenes of frantic buying. Don't be afraid of stocking too much, but fear for not having enough has become a guideline for stockpiling by some people.
又到一望无际的地步了。
It's 5:59 a.m. I'm back from grocery shopping. Before I went to bed last night, I was instructed that I must go snatch up some groceries this morning. I've already got it. There were only 6 pieces of tofu left when I was there. I feel bad to take them all, so I bought 4 pieces, afraid others might not be able to get any. I wish you all peace and prosperity, and I hope soon the city will be unblocked for real. Folks in Shanghai have told overseas Chinese media their observations. They think that the city may be locked down again, but authorities dare not take the same approach as the previous 2 months. That is, the entire city was virtually shut down. Instead, the government may seal off parts of the city where the outbreak is severe and not strictly seal off other parts, creating the impression that the city is not locked down, but in reality, people are hindered and can't do many things. Another feedback from a Shanghai resident is that although she is able to get out of her neighborhood after closure was lifted on June 1st, many fences in her neighborhood, including on nearby roads, have not been removed and remained in place, leaving the impression that they can be blocked again at any time.
肯定担心啊，因为也是刚刚6月1号解封，我们也是慢慢的恢复，稍微有一点正常工作。那如果说真的是像我们皖南4村已经封了，就我们隔壁，如果真的在什么大筛查呀，包括如果真的小区出现有复阳的，那我们对我们生活影响很严重，包括我们的工作。
据说上海又要封了。It is said that Shanghai is going to lock down again. Now I have brought the blanket with me, see? I'm prepared to go into a state of war again for 2 months. This time, I won't stay in a closed room. Now I plan to build a shelter. At first, I wanted to build it here. This place was taken, so I came to this small park here. It's going to be my temporary shelter. Look, my blanket and clothes are here. I'm going to get settled here tonight. I'll sleep here at night. Well, now I've made my bed. I'll sleep here. A beautiful view of 360 degrees.
不能封啊，封了我们要死人了，这个领导。小弟啊，不能封啊。这广州广。
Brother, you can't lock the gate. We'll die in here if you do.
好了，小弟走吧走吧，再见了，拜拜。不能封啊，不能封。好了，拜拜了拜拜了。你现在是管得很。
The Communist Party has tightened its grip on residents' speech because of the bad impression the Shanghai lockdown has made on the world. WeChat, the main social media platform for Shanghai residents, has been tightly controlled in particular. Many people's groups and accounts have been blocked suddenly and for no apparent reason. Some residents' accounts are at risk simply for sharing some videos, and some have been harassed by police at their homes as a result. The CCP has tried to avoid an entire city lockdown, but due to the lack of better ways to control the outbreak, it's increasingly relying on mass nucleic acid testing. China's Vice Premier, Sun Chunlan, has urged cities facing outbreaks to ensure that residents are no more than a 15-minute walk from testing sites. But the effectiveness of this approach has been called into question. On June 13th, a positive case was found on a high-speed train from Shanghai to Beijing. Staff asked all passengers to get off the train midway in Jinan, Shandong province, for isolation. This made the passengers angry as they took the nucleic acid test every day and checked their health code at the station. How come a positive case could suddenly appear and the entire train full of people had to be escorted out?
How did he get on the train? Why didn't you people detect it? Now we have received a notification from the Shanghai Institute of Disease Control that the passenger tested positive for a nucleic acid test. Please understand, If you do not all get off the train, this train cannot continue to run.
The theory of mass testing is that local places that are deemed to be at risk of a virus outbreak can quickly identify affected parts by testing everyone every few days and conducting localized lockdowns in the hope that it will avoid imposing a citywide lockdown as was done in Shanghai. This approach is costly. China's health authorities initially claimed that the National Health Insurance Fund of $534 billion would cover the costs, but the National Health Insurance Administration later changed its story and said that only people who were hospitalized could claim the cost of testing. This has left local governments with the lion's share of the costs. Many local governments in China are struggling to pay for the necessary nucleic acid testing and to provide the necessary oversight of the testing industry that has expanded massively in a short period of time. In the heart of China's economy, the wealthy Shanghai government has recruited a number of volunteers to work on epidemic prevention, but some have so far failed to receive the pay promised by the government. According to calculations by the macro research team of Huachuang Securities, the cost of nucleic acid testing in China has reached about $44.7 billion so far since the outbreak, and 50% of it occurred in the first 4 months of 2022. The almost psychopathic reliance on nucleic acid testing by CCP bureaucrats has brought many untold miseries to the Chinese people. This garbage nucleic acid certificate. My certificate expired 3 minutes before I was not allowed to board the plane. The state-mandated nucleic acid certificate takes advantage of each minute and second to keep us locked. This is the anti-epidemic requirement. For many multinational companies, Shanghai's uncertain future is also painful. Pudong New Area is where the outbreak is currently more severe. It's the home to the Tesla Mega Factory and many other international brands. In addition, the specialty chemical manufacturing area in Xuhui District is also affected. Tesla canceled 3 online recruitment events scheduled for June in China. Tesla's Shanghai plant mainly produces Model 3 and Model Y for domestic sales and export. However, following the lockdown of Shanghai under the Communist Party's zero-COVID policy, Tesla's Shanghai plant was forced to shut down, and production for the quarter was down by more than a third from the previous quarter, exceeding company president Elon Musk's predictions. Now, communist authorities have resumed a massive blockade in Shanghai, including highway closures, which has severely impacted export truck traffic to the Shanghai port. The latest prevention restrictions come at a time when trucking capacity is back to about 80%. Trucks loaded with cargo and containers now have no access to Shanghai terminals, and many customers have no choice but to change their loading ports to Ningbo or other small ports along the Yangtze River. As cases of COVID-19 continue to appear throughout Shanghai, the port of Ningbo, which has become its alternative, is now also experiencing congestion. DHL Global Forwarding also said that finding truckers to and from the Shanghai area continues to be a challenge. During the previous blockade, blocked truck traffic led to shortages of raw materials for companies such as Volkswagen and Tesla. In early June, Japanese automakers also said the more than 2-month lockdown in Shanghai resulted in severe shortages in the parts supply chain for Japanese automakers, forcing manufacturers to shut down and reduce production, particularly Toyota's domestic production in Japan, which was reduced by about 60% and spread globally. Apple, Sony, and Volkswagen have said that the implementation of the zero-COVID policy in Shanghai has affected the supply of materials needed to manufacture products. On June 1st, the Shanghai Development Research Foundation held a video seminar to discuss the topic of how to view the current relocation of some Chinese and foreign companies. Huang Feng, an expert in foreign investment and president of the Shanghai Foreign Investment Association, said that foreign investment in China has declined in the past few years and that the impact of the outbreak in Shanghai on foreign invested enterprises is unprecedented in the past 30 years and the impact is enormous. He commented that if capital and technology intensive companies move out of the country for reasons such as supply chain and some other political factors, it will have a very big impact on the Chinese economy. He said,